Welcome to this series of Before You Buy, aimed at business managers and higher IT management to hopefully help you make better and more educated decisions regarding trending technologies going beyond the hype. The topic of this episode is RPA, or Robotic Process Automation. There has been a lot of change in this area in the past few years, and we witnessed more and more companies launching pilots or full-scale projects, most of the time not fully understanding what ship they were embarking on. I led an RPA team of about 40 people working on several different projects this past year, and I have been acting as program and resource manager for those engagements. In this episode, I will share with you the keys to understand the subject, the potential ROI for your organization, and a structure to help you plan your implementation for success. So first, what is RPA? An RPA solution is a piece of software replicating human interactions with other software solutions. We saw a lot of definition of RPA. And as for any technology, the definition differs if you are a technical architect, a solution vendor, or implementation partners. Here is our tentative definition that should apply to all solutions. Bear in mind, solution vendors are expanding the capabilities of most platforms, blurring the lines with other solutions like service-oriented architecture, business process management, or optical character recognition. Let me explain how it works with a more graphical example. Meet Ben. Ben works in the finance department of his company. He interacts with a lot of different systems, some installed on his desktop as Microsoft Excel, some he can access on his company's network like the ERP, some are shared folders stored inside or outside the company's data centers, some are accessed through the internet as cloud solutions or third-party websites like the company bank's online banking portal. I chose to illustrate the use of RPA in finance because it's still the most targeted vertical by RPA vendors and partners, but it can be used in a lot of other contexts, as I will explain later in this video. Let's talk about bank reconciliation. Again, I will be simplifying the process for the sake of the example and to keep the video on topic and as short as possible. First, Ben goes to the company bank's online banking portal to extract banking history. Then, Ben generates a file to prepare an import in the company's systems. After that, Ben connects to the company's ERP, imports and compares the data. And finally, Ben analyzes the discrepancies, if any, then files the report and sends it around for further action. As you can imagine, those are fairly simple activities that have strict rules like comparing values and are repetitive, as Ben would likely have to go through this process every month. Now, how would an RPA agent or robot execute this process? Remember, the robot is a piece of software and not a physical person. It is a computer program that would have to run on a computer, physical or virtual if you have virtual machines. Step by step, the robot will go through the exact same actions as Ben, using pre-established business rules and accessing the same resources the exact same way Ben did. So how does this work? The first and main technique used by RPA is scrapping. Scrapping is about retrieving information from a user interface. It is mainly of two types: parsing and OCR, or optical character recognition. Parsing is the bot reading through a web page or any bot-readable document to find the relevant items, while OCR is about interpreting the screen as an image to find where the relevant information is, using artificial intelligence to figure out characters and words. Normally, when a machine is talking to another machine, it is using an API, which is short for Application Programming Interface, and it is the go-to method for machine-to-machine communication. RPA is making use of scrapping for several reasons, one of them being reducing the development effort needed for implementation, and also to be simpler to design, as our accountant Ben would be able to set up his bot by himself without having to code or know anything about APIs. Scrapping also has its downsides, as if anything changes on the user interface, the bot is likely to fail. This is a major strategic point to note when thinking of launching RPA program. RPA will most probably generate operational efficiency gains, but will also for sure reduce your agility. As a rule of thumb, scrapping should only be used as a last resort when there is no way to use APIs. A second technique would be native integrations that permit the bot to interact with native applications installed on the computer. This is mostly useful when dealing with documents, emails, or navigating folders, as integration is fairly good with most RPA platforms. Then there is a business rule engine, which is the choice maker or the thinking part. Based on the collected information available to the bot, algorithms will run to determine an outcome. It is important to note that RPA does not imply artificial intelligence. While it can be used to complement RPA, it is not part of the basic RPA concept. The bot itself is an orchestrator, implementing the triggers defining what event should launch the process and the process logic organizing and ordering the bot activity. The capabilities of a bot can vary depending on the chosen platform. However, there are characteristics that are common to all. Activities that will deliver the most value when automatized through RPA are recurring, rule-based, and time-consuming. As said, depending on the vendor, functionalities and platform capabilities might vary. It is not the point of this video to discuss the differences between those platforms, but let us know if you would be interested in a full comparison of the leader platforms on the market, and I will be happy to make a separate video for it. In the meantime, here is a list of leader vendors currently as per the Gartner report of 2019 and a list of the main features of RPA platforms. As per the beginning of 2020, some vendors already presented big platforms improvements, including features as automatic document classification and OCR extraction for invoice processing or process intelligence. There is no doubt that most of the platforms will try to evolve into something more technically relevant and more streamlined for business and IT operations in the future. To wrap up on the concept before we move on to ROI analysis and planning for success, RPA is your new word based on old technologies and concepts. Any software's purpose is to automatize a business process or part of a business process. Business process management platforms with workflow automation and cross-system integration has been present for decades. Optical character recognition is not new either, has only evolved recently thanks to artificial intelligence becoming more accessible and widespread. And user interface scrapping and scripting with tools like Selenium has been used for automated testing for years before RPA platforms emerged. The combination of all those pre-existing concepts and technologies does bring value, as the reliance on user interface instead of APIs decreased the footprint and time to market for the solution. And I have witnessed real business process efficiency gains when projects were planned and delivered properly. However, there is a risk on both IT and business, as we will discuss in the coming section. At this point, an ROI analysis can only be theoretical and abstract from any context. There is no way to establish a cost or benefits analysis for your company without taking into account your specific company context and maturity. That being said, here are some points to keep in mind when planning for your RPA costs regardless of the externalization or internalization of the delivery. This is an example breakdown for different phases of an RPA project from an end user perspective. Most vendors will start the project process at the process assessment, which should happen only after a proper internal assessment. From their point of view, this is the start of the project. From your point of view, this should be the start of the delivery or execution phase. Do not neglect to factor in the pre-delivery costs, as your team likely spend lots of time in studies and assessments for various potential projects every year. One very important aspect in this cost sheet is the requirement gathering. Most of the time, business analysts will come to your business teams to understand the process in details. Business teams will have to spend time with technical business analysts to design the automation. This will always constitute an internal cost to consider. Another often hidden cost is the time that is required from the business team in the hypercare period after the automated process is rolled out. Business teams will have to review the results of automated processing after each run for some time. The amount of effort and the duration of hypercare can vary largely, so keep it in check. The running cost, on the other hand, is pretty standard. The only item that you will have to be careful of is the change management process, as RPA is relying on other systems. The impact of change on those systems on the automations should be planned for accordingly. You will often see benefits of RPA represented this way. The full time of an agent is now freed by the bot, and it can be refocused completely on other activities. In reality, it is often not 100% of the activity that is freed, but something closer to 70 to 90%, as 10 to 30% of the activity will have to be allocated on error cases, supervision, or situations that are considered out of scope or not possible to automatize. On the short term, and as soon as during the requirement gathering phase, you can expect to have internal discussions within your teams on business processes. You might even be able to profit from this occasion to standardize procedures if it's not already the case. Later on, and sometimes right after the initial delivery, process re-engineering and opportunity for improvement could come more naturally from smooth relations between the business team and the automation team, generating even more value. You should reach the target of operational efficiency gains in the long term after after the run is stabilized, all exception cases are identified, errors are managed systematically, and reports are reliable. It takes time for the business teams to fully comprehend the technical aspects that will permit the gains, and for the IT teams to understand the business challenges they are working with. Depending on the project and periodicity of the process, long term can represent anything from 6 months to a year. The cost of an RPA project is relatively low when compared to another solution delivery. What I am representing here is more the effort that is needed from each side and for each phase. You can expect very good results in terms of operational efficiency gains. It is important to note though that this is a business solution as it brings more issues than it fixes on the IT landscape. Therefore, even though the technology is not new and a lot of hype is marketing and sales material, there can be benefits to adopt RPA in some contexts. The last part of this video is dedicated to planning for success and reviewing what to do and what to avoid to maximize chances of success and value generation. The first important thing before launching the RPA program is to assess its relevance for your company and your teams. Engage both your business and IT teams to evaluate the opportunity and go beyond the hype themselves. Try avoiding engaging any vendor initially and rely on trusted neutral partners or publicly available information to raise their maturity. This action might raise some resistance to change due to a common fear of robot replacing humans. Tackle this issue before the project launch as it could raise the cost of the project considerably later. Let your team come back with conclusions and trust them with the outcome. Sometimes IT teams will be too eager to apply an irrelevant but new and exciting technology. Sometimes the business will see a technology as a silver bullet. Or you might have some resistance from any of the teams due to fear of the unknown or bad reputation. In any case, this represents your company's culture and you should take it into account before launching any project. Take the outcome seriously and act accordingly. Some help in change management or coaching might be useful at this point. I saw a seemingly easy and straightforward program fall behind schedule and largely exceed its initial budget only because of the lack of comprehension and engagement from the business and IT teams. Engage your teams before anything else. The whole endeavor depends on the identification of the relevant processes to automatize. They need to be rule-based, repeatable, repetitive, and sufficiently time-consuming to generate a positive ROI in the first year. Spend enough time on the selecting and setting the boundaries of the processes you want to include in the scope of the program. Then make sure people are available in the business teams for business analysis. RPA business analysts will often ask operators to show them the processes to a click-level detail and run through exceptional cases to represent them on a graph. Do not neglect this activity, as the bot is nothing more than a list of instructions and choices with predefined outcomes. If something falls under the radar at this point, it will mean more effort to fix later. Your team members will have their workload impacted by the rollout of the automations. Plan for them to support the rollout initially and slowly migrate to their new tasks as trust in the platform grows. Let your team know you planned for it. It will reassure them and help mitigate the fear of losing their jobs. Map your processes in sufficient details to be useful for implementation and abstracted enough to be shared and reviewed. Process maps are useful beyond RPA for process re-engineering, communication, training or standardization. Regardless of the selected platform, you should be able to have your first complex process delivered within a month, excluding the platform setup. A simple process can be delivered as fast as within a week. Keep your teams on deck for testing and support the delivery. For delivery planning of a week, so 5 days, a delay of 1 day because test data is not available is already a 20% schedule creep. Prepare for thorough testing. Prepare your environments, including a development environment, and prepare good test data covering the nominal process but also exceptions and error cases. As the RPA solution relies on applications' user interfaces, it is important to have a separate environment for developers to play with while developing. Use the process maps produced earlier as the source of truth. Anything not documented is not part of the requirements. Anything documented should be delivered as documented. It might sound obvious, but it's still worth the reminder. Support the development team with an environment they can manipulate during the development phases so they can test properly, consume test data, and then reset the environment to its initial state for replay. The amount of time that can be lost during those development tests is too important to be neglected. Some processes run once every minute, some others run once every month. Allow your teams enough time to review several runs during the hypercare period and make sure the automations are running as expected. Only start transferring workloads when trust in the platform starts growing. Include RPA in your IT service management, and do not forget to include RPA in the CAB or change advisory board for the underlying solutions. As said earlier, if you change anything in the navigation or the user interface of an application, chances are you will need to change the bot behavior accordingly. Deactivate the bot if a more sustainable solution is found. Consider RPA as the quick and cheap way to automatize a process. Migrate to an internal automation or service-oriented architecture solution when possible. IT total cost of ownership will be lower in the long run. Build your RPA operating model, supporting the business for future evolution, and cross-train them for service-oriented architecture and underlying solutions so they can make better decisions as to how a process should be automatized. RPA is a low-hanging fruit. Fast to deploy and to deliver value. It is as fast to succeed as it is fast to fail. You need to assess properly your processes and readiness for this kind of solution, or generate the shock on purpose to force maturity. Start engaging your teams, generate discussions, engage with the most obvious pilots. I found invoice processing to be a good candidate as a pilot project when artificial intelligence and optical character recognition are involved for end-to-end automation. Employees onboarding process is also a good candidate as long as you do not have a more integrated solution to do it. As long as you are extra careful with the keys I provided in this video, you should have good results implementing RPA and should most probably give it a try. I am Walid Lebour from Zoom. Thank you for watching.